So today I actually got promoted to blue belt. Yeah, pretty crazy, pretty surprising. Like Tim asked me if I was competing in the middle of the class. I said no. I didn't even realize. So he did it to make sure that he wouldn't be promoting me as I'm, then I'd have to compete at the higher level. What else? So so it was very gratifying, I guess. It's, I think, the big, so like you can, there's some belts, sometimes you can just show up, right? Like, I don't know who said it, Einstein, they say, or Benjamin Franklin, or whoever, that's saying about 90% of life or 99% of life is just showing up. And that is true to a certain extent, but I never feel like if you do that for those things where all you have to do is show up, it's not like a moment of pride necessarily to do that. For that achievement isn't like very, it doesn't make me feel like I accomplished anything necessarily. So this one, I think it's like, in jiu-jitsu it's like necessary but not sufficient to just show up. Like you have to show up at consistently and get the work in, but you also have to you have to do a lot of introspection, or you're not gonna, first of all, you're not gonna show up all the time if you're not doing introspection, because you will never succeed at anything in jiu-jitsu at first. It's a constant cycle of trying something out, not working, and then figuring out why. So if you don't have any introspection, you'll just be, at the first failure, you'll be like, this is not working. Why am I even doing this at all? And just stop doing it. So first you need a lot of introspection just to keep on showing up. But then in jiu-jitsu, there's also there's a lot of paths, or there's a bajillion techniques, and you can focus on a small amount, right? You can always go back to the tried and true or whatever, and you could be good at them and if they could work, or they could work against certain people and not working against others, but you just stay to those, and if it doesn't work against some people, you could say I tried my best and it just wasn't good enough or whatever. But if you really want to grow, you have to explore alternatives. You have to try out new techniques or new positions or whatever, and just face the failure and be vulnerable to failure. So I think in jiu-jitsu, obviously some schools or some teachers, you don't, showing up is enough, right? You show up for 2 years. I think if you show up for 2 years or so, or 3 years or 4 years, at some point most people will just promote you just for being so stubborn. But I think in general, jiu-jitsu's, showing up is not enough. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. And so I am proud of this accomplishment, because one of the guys today, he said when he started, I'm the only person he remembers from his first class, and there were 10-15 people there, probably, and there were a lot more people in that week or the first week or two that he went, right? So like, just out of people when he started, and I don't remember anyone. I remember him. Well, he started like a month after me, but my first class, I only clearly remember like one or two other people, and they're not around anymore. So yeah, it's like a huge amount of turnover. Where was I going with this? Anyway, yeah, so showing up isn't enough. It's finding the holes, or being open. Like, it's not finding the holes, because the holes in your game are very, very readily visible, especially, if you're like a white belt or a novice. You do a round and you're getting passed left and right, like obviously there's a hole there. So, or you can't finish something, obviously it's like very apparent when there's a hole in your game. So just being open to seeing that and then working on that, like you could show up. I think that's what I was saying before, that you can show up and you can say, oh, I always get passed by this one guy, and I will never get passed by this guy. Or you can say, this guy passes me by doing this, I need to figure out what my response should be, right? Tim says something, he says that we're not in the excuse making business, we're in the I forgot. We're in some other business. We're in the answer finding business. So I think that's what, the showing up is necessary but not sufficient. What is another thing that is necessary is not being in the excuse making business, like figuring out where you are, where you're weak, and how to fix those holes. Yeah. So yeah. And the past 2 weeks, that hole that I wasn't kind of even aware about was like guard retention. I knew like guard retention was important, but I didn't, and I thought I knew the basics of it, but I realized like, it was, my guard retention is pretty much non-existent. So just realizing that, and kind of realizing how to work on it has helped me work on it. So I guess like 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, I was just sort of floundering in the guard retention, and now I'm still, like, obviously I'm not where it should be or where it could be. That would literally take years, but I see the road or the path how to get better at it. And I think that's like another thing, right, where showing was necessary but not sufficient. It's like you can show up a million times, but if you don't see the road that you're supposed to be on, then it's just not, you're not going to progress, or it's going to be like haphazard progressing, right? It'd be you're not necessarily progressing in a straight line, you're progressing like random directions, and occasionally you might be progressing in the right direction. So yeah, so that's, I guess this whole rant has been about why like this is like a real achievement in my eyes. It's something to be really proud of, while other things in my life aren't necessarily. So today we worked on close guard, so flower sweep. So flower sweep is if you can bring them forward but not collapsing onto you. So So flower sweep. Second, what if they do collapse on you? If they collapse on you, then you go for a collar, cross collar choke. In response to that, they should posture up. So if they posture up, you do the scissor sweep. And if they come back, so if they pull back in response to scissor sweep, then you go for a triangle. So flower sweep, I think I covered a few times already. Nothing new today on it. Second, scissor sweep. So scissor sweep, you have lapel. Let's just say you have lapel with your left hand, right hand. You had the pants because you're going flower sweep, pulls back. So now you get the wrist grip with your left hand. So you go from lapel to wrist, and then you shrimp out. You back heel with your left foot. You back heel onto his back. And then what you want to do is your right knee comes across sort of like a knee shield. And ideally they're leaning forward, so there's a lot of pressure on your knee. You keep it vertical, you don't want to let them smash it. And then you bring your bottom leg to block their knee. So your bottom leg is like on the floor. The leg's on the floor, but the foot is slightly off the floor because you don't want to let them pass. So it's like mostly blocking, but a little bit defensive. And then you're bringing your right leg forward, but you're also bringing your left leg backwards. So a lot of people, like, the lazy way to do it is just to block with your lower leg and then push with your upper leg. But what you want is to actually scissor them. So you want to bring the top leg across and the bottom leg also across. So the top leg is across to, in this scenario, to your left, and the bottom leg is across to your right. In that way, it's sort of similar to the flower sweep, but your finishing position is with your legs like open to each other. One thing I noticed was you definitely need to shrimp out. You need a lot of room, or it's not gonna work. If you're all tied up, if you're like crunched up, it's not gonna work. So if it's not working, shrimp out a little more. The other thing is, don't bring the bottom leg down until you're ready to sweep. If you bring it down too early, it's more opportunity for them to pass. Also, you don't want to, the reason you're back heeling instead of putting your foot on the hip, so don't put your foot on the hip in order to shrimp out, because if you do that, that moves your knee too close to their hand, and they can post on your knee and pass you that way. You also definitely need to get the sleeve control on the side of the sweep so they can't post. I kept on forgetting about that for a few times. And then the triangle is if they pull away, so same setup as for the scissor sweep. So your right leg would go to the shoulder, and then you push, you go from the shoulder to beyond the shoulder, but you do that by, so you would have your left hand would have the sleeve grip, but you actually want to get your hips off the ground, and you use that, your core strength, to punch your right leg beyond the shoulder. At which point you bring your leg around the back of his neck, around the back of his neck, and then you lock in the triangle with your left hand on the shin, hand on shin. So Tim said this is like the most important piece. So once you have that position, now is you can sort of tidy up your triangle. You don't have to rush at this point. You're kind of locked in. So your right arm, you want to cut the angle. So your right arm either grabs his left arm or ideally his left leg. You can underhook that leg to make yourself more perpendicular. So even if you can only get the arm, you get the arm in order to get to the leg. So there's that. Let's see. Oh, right. And then you know, when you're perpendicular and it's cut, then you lock the triangle with your left leg over your right leg. And so your left leg does not want to be on top of the foot. It should be on the shin. You know, obviously closer to your foot, but you shouldn't be bending your foot back with your left leg. Right? So there shouldn't be any pressure on the other side of your ankle joint. It should all be on the, if it's on the ankle joint, it should be on the shin side of the ankle joint. So then you, so that should be enough to finish it because you cut the angle so much. If it's not, then you pull the arm across and you can pull down on the head. But focusing on all the stuff before makes it should make it less needed to do all that other stuff. So that is flower, scissor, triangle. After class, I did a private with Tim, and we did passing from the knees, or defending passing on the knees. So it's like a collar drag. First you did collar drag to like a wrestle up side smash. Then we did after the collar drag. So that's if you can wrestle up on them. If you can't wrestle up on them, if they push into you, you do like a shin on shin to a single X, and then either it's like a single X turnout. It's sort of similar to the Leandro Lo move, where you pinch your knees and then you rotate your knees to sweep, rather than sort of bucking your hips to push them over. So it's more of a sweep that I don't know how you would say. It's not like a tripod sweep, but it's more like I don't know. I should come up with a name for it, maybe. Let's see. Okay, so then do the Leandro Lo sweep. Once you do the Leandro Lo sweep, you is that before or after? Alright. Once you do the Leandro Lo sweep, then you can bring that inside leg to the other side, trap the knee, and do a technical stand-up. And then you plant your fist down and then do a tripod pass. Otherwise, you tripod. Okay, so then the other one was you get in position for a Leandro Lo type sweep, but we'll try the sound correction on this one. See how good that is. Let me get a little further away. Okay, so you're in like the single leg setup. You can't get the Leandro Lo style sweep to work because they rotate their knee in, I think. I forgot what the cue was. but you're unable to, in which case you shelf the leg onto your elbow. You roll onto your right hip, shelf the leg onto your elbow, so you have your sort of left elbow high, and then the leg is shelved there, and then you bring your left leg inside. Oh, your left leg's already inside, so you're supporting his hip with your left leg. Your right leg comes down to the inside of his knee, and that prevents him from coming into you. You come up onto your elbow and then your hand. Once you're in your hand, your left leg can go from the inside of his leg to the ground, and then you technical stand up and pass from there. Some other stuff was just moving around as he's trying to pass from his knees. So you want to grip kind of high on the lapel. I always grip very low on the lapel, and then you don't want to do that because there's a lot of slack. The more slack, the less control you have. But they will probably, if you grab too high up on the lapel, they will focus on that and focus on breaking your grip. So there's like a little happy medium, like in all things. So you want to grab as high as possible. The higher you grab, the more control you'll have. And then you want to push, but you're not pushing with your with that fist that you create when you make that grip. You actually place like your forearm against his chest, and then you come up. So it's not really arm strength, it's your body. I feel like I do that a lot, is just kind of rely on my limbs, and it's really stupid because, well, first, you're not using your body, and second, I'm usually smaller than everyone I'm rolling in, so I'm like disadvantaging myself even more. Anyway, so that was all the moves today.